So I'm going to just jump in right with the first question here, Joe. Intaker's unique approach. I'd love to hear more about how Intaker came about. I'd love to hear about the chat scripts and the interactivity that happens on it, and really how are law firms benefiting from having Intaker on their site. So I threw a lot of questions at you, but break it down for me.
Yeah, well, I think it might be good, Mark, to start at a quick backstory of how this whole thing started. Um, we have two co-founders, and CEO Puya was working on a different startup at the time in a WeWork and involving natural language processing, kind of before there were large language models, LLMs. They were kind of small language models at the time. This is going back to like 2017, 2018. But he had a neighbor in that office, an attorney, startup attorney, founder, personal injury firm in Los Angeles, and he was, really energetic, enthusiastic, passionate, and very loud on the phone all the time. And so much of his time was just spent talking to people who were not even clients on the phone, just leads that he was getting, and trying to find out, are these people that he can help or not. And so it was not the most efficient use of his time, as you can imagine. And so, as the story goes, Puya took his neighbor, attorney David, out to lunch to ask him to keep it down. But really just to find out like what he was struggling with. And, when he found out that it was an issue just of making sure that like he understands what these people's needs are, and he can really focus on helping just the people that have those challenges, that maybe were injured, that had, something that he could help with. He was able to spin up something really quick, basically on a tool, like Typeform, that style, to find out what are those qualifying questions that he would need to ask before that phone call, and just send it as a link. So text it to folks as a link before that initial call, just to say hey, and take 5 minutes, just answer a few of these questions. It's really going to help us when we get on the phone. And he was so impressed by that he said, hey, this is really cool. And, if you did this and that, and, then I have a bunch of friends from law school that could really use something like this and probably pay you, I don't know, $100 a month for something like that. And that was the light bulb moment where they pretty much shut down the other, startup that they were working on at the time, and pivoted to just focus on legal tech, and kind of filling a need in the industry when it came to two things: capturing more leads and pre-qualifying them. That's kind of where it started. And I know that one of the things that you mentioned earlier is, having a lot of different options in terms of prompts for when someone comes on a website chat, asking the right questions. So, for those who may not be familiar, what Intaker does is, as a website chat, it offers pre-built prompts for website visitor. We can take personal injury, for example. Someone comes on a site and there might be different options for maybe an auto accident versus a dog bite, or even like a nursing home type case. And the qualification, as you can imagine, is totally different in those situations. Yes, you might have, were you injured? When was the injury? Where were you located? Those are kind of standard, but to understand more of the facts of the case before you invest a lot of time speaking with this potential client, even if it's 20 or 30 minutes, getting the information up front to make sure that you know who to focus on, if they have a case, if you can help them, and just make sure that you're getting that information before you're investing the time. But it goes a little deeper than that, because there's the other side of adding that compassion, that empathy, that human touch, right? When you have more information and you can understand someone's situation on that first phone call, you can go a little bit deeper into what they need, the kind of support they need emotionally, as well as just the facts of the case. So all little things, but at the end of the day, increasing that sense of connection, that rapport, that engagement between potential clients and attorneys up front while making sure that law firms can focus on those cases that matter and not necessarily spend time speaking to the tire kickers who might reach out, especially on website chat. I mean, one more thing to add, which is if you're an attorney and you're using website chat right now, you might have had some experience where it could have been frustrating at some point that you're speaking to a lot of folks, chat leads are coming in, but they're not qualified. There might be a lot of, what looks like people that frankly you can't really help reaching out. And that can get frustrating, right? So getting tools that can help you kind of sort through earlier, just to make sure that you're not wasting your time on the wrong opportunities, while also, giving people a chance to raise their hand and see, how you can support them early on in the process. We did not even talk about the video yet. I know that was another question, but I think I talked long enough.
Yeah, no, I know from our firms that have Intaker on their website, we always get this immediate feedback, and it is, this is so cool and it's saving me time. I think those are the two things that we always hear right away. The saving time, obviously, their intake person or themselves are not wasting the time, like you mentioned, with the tire kickers trying to pre-qualify everyone, and they end up on a lengthy phone call of billable hours, which aren't billable at all because you just basically wasted 30 minutes for someone that you can't help. And the other thing is when they say this is so cool, I think it speaks to the technology of like they have this assistant basically intaker on their website and it's doing most of the heavy lifting. How does a firm then, besides these two things that like we hear right away, it's cool and it's saving me time, does Intaker measure anything for the firms to give them some analytics about actually what's happening?
Yeah, good question. And I think data is one of those pieces of the puzzle. Not all firms are equal in terms of the data that they capture and that they use to run their business, but more data is always going to help when you're looking to find those inefficiencies. And there are a few things that, as far as analytics go, where there's a little, you can dive deeper with Intaker than maybe a typical website chat, just because of the nature of how that was built. And I can come at it, there's kind of like two levels, right? The first level is like marketing analytics, and that's kind of straightforward to measure. The second is productivity for the firm, and that's maybe a little more intangible unless you're really tracking everyone's time. But on the marketing side, there's a few things that are going to move the needle, right? Things like the conversion rate for your chat leads, meaning of all the people coming to your website and your landing pages, how many of those people are, converting, raising their hand, looking for help. That's kind of the core metric that you can use to compare any chats, right? Where you're talking about an automated chat like Intaker or a live chat where there's a live agent on the other side. The conversion rate is the most simple one. But beyond that, there's another, which is the qualified conversion rate. There's like the concept of qualified sales leads, just making sure that of all the folks coming in the door, you have insight into, who are those opportunities that you can help, those folks that are, really eligible potential clients versus those tire kickers that you mentioned before. And so having a tool that can help make that level of filtering easy for you. And the nice thing is it's different for every firm. I'll give you another example for personal injury. And I go to that just because it's one of the most competitive markets. And, it's where there's like the most competition for, make sure your chat can deliver results, right? But there could be two different firms. They could both be successful and both be, dominating in their market, but they might be going after different potential clients. Like some injury firms might only consider leads who had an injury in the past 30 days, right? Other firms may consider, or want to sign clients that have an injury that can go back 18 months, right? Depending on the statute of limitations in that area and kind of the goals of the firm. And so those are data points where typically it would be hard to, in like an unstructured data set, if you're just getting, chat information, be able to tell, okay, of all the leads that I got, who kind of matched this very narrow specific qualification criteria that our firm has. One of the things that Intaker does a little bit differently is being able to understand not just the data that the leads are sharing, details about their case, but also, what are those needle movers for the law firm? What are those data points that really matter to them? Basically, what's the qualified lead for that particular firm? It's going to be unique to every law firm, but having a tool that can understand, basically very simple in plain English, using some pretty cool AI stuff, understand what a law firm considers a home run, what's a qualified lead, what's not a qualified lead, and then help them, every chat lead that comes in, kind of see who matches those criteria, and then produce some kind of analytics or some measurement tools to understand those leads that are coming in the door. How many of those would you consider are qualified leads? You know what I mean?
Yeah, got it for sure. I'd love to hear from you, sort of a case study or maybe your favorite story about a firm that has installed Intaker on their website. I know from our point of view as the agency, when we recommend a client put Intaker on their website, like I mentioned to you before here in the conversation, we always hear like right away, this is so great. It's saving us time. It's saving our intake person time. And we really now know who we're speaking to before we ever speak to them. But can you share maybe a recent story of a firm that called you after they put Intaker on their website?
Yeah, I do have a client who I can point to, and we didn't, they weren't like we didn't sign them up that recently, but it took a few years to get them started. They've been with us about 2 years now. And his name is Jim Keller. He operates a successful personal injury practice in the Midwest and in some southwestern states. And, he's been part of the Intaker family, since 2022. And before that, he was actually staffing all of his chats in-house, right? He had his own in-house intake team, not just answering the phones, but, responding to chats. And the reason that he did that is just because of the horror stories that can happen when it comes to outsourcing your live chats and potentially, those cases. I don't know if anyone, listening or seeing this later has ever experienced when you get someone that was a potential client come in the door from chat, and then for whatever reason there was a mishap and the live agent dropped the ball, either telling them no, we can't help you with that matter, or just mishandling the situation, and that gets like really expensive. And so trying to avoid that issue, Jim just had all of his operations in-house, making sure that his chats were handled by his team, and they were responsible, so there was none of that issue. But it brought a lot of other operational challenges where now with chat, you need to make sure that you're responding pretty much lightning fast, because if you don't get an instant response, if you submit a little chat inquiry and, especially if you're not yet sharing your name, phone, email, that sort of thing, then, every second counts. So there's that issue, having 24/7 coverage, making sure that his intake team is, can do this well while also like handling the phones and everything else in terms of serving clients and the work that needs to happen. So it's a complicated issue. And there's so many things there that could have been solved with automation. And that's why Jim, was like looking for a tool like Intaker. And after we got him started, right, there were kind of three things that happened. Number one, the leads went up. The chat leads on his website, just more conversions, more qualified lead, more at-bats, essentially, for his firm. For some of the reasons that I mentioned before, especially with things like response time and just creating a more engaging experience. I mean, one thing that Jim also did really well was having that video feature, Mark. I know we talked briefly about having a video as part of that personalized welcome to someone's website, inviting them in, letting them know, hey, if you were injured, you might have a case, something we can help you with. We'd love to see how we can how we can serve you. So please reach out. Small little note like that, especially when it's produced with, that authenticity and that real warmth. Personal injury attorneys do it great, but even any attorney who has experience with clients, can do this. Add that short little video on their website. But that Jim did a great job, and that just led to more leads, less time being spent from his team, dealing with those unqualified folks, unqualified leads that we talked about. But the most important thing is just signing more cases from his website chat. At the end of the day, it has to make sense financially. The best way to do that is to use the tool that's going to get you the best results in terms of the one metric that matters, and that is, are you generating more revenue or are you signing more cases from the tool that you're using, your website chat? And it's been almost 2 years that Jim has been with us on the platform now, and we're about to take it to the next level with some of the AI stuff, as well as deeper integrations with a lot of the other tools in the space, other case management systems especially, to make sure that we're closing the loop between the leads that come in that Intaker can work, not just on the chat side, but things like the follow-ups, the automation, texting, as well as emails, having that information work with all the modern case management tools that a law firm is using, whether that's Filevine or Clio or Neos or any of them. So that's a bit about Jim. I think that's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great case story, and how a firm is using Intaker. Let me get your take now on where client communication is going. You dropped the AI bomb there a couple different times. I don't think I've had a conversation in the last 10 months with someone that hasn't said AI in it, myself included. But I'd love to get your take on not only AI when it comes to client communication, but where's Intaker going in the next 12 months here.
It's very interesting. And, there's some things that I'll save for a little bit later this year, some things that we're working on right now that's, truly mind blowing. But I'll also talk about kind of where we're going and what to expect in the next couple of months in terms of the product development using AI. So, sure everyone listening or watching, remembers it was November 2022 that kind of ChatGPT initially came out, or became really popular online. And a few months after that, the company OpenAI had their APIs available for other developers to start using these tools. And then shortly after that, they released their most powerful model, GPT-4, which still is like the most amazing thing that's ever happened in terms of accessibility with high powered like AI tools. So just to give you an idea kind of where we've come and where we're going, it was last year that Intaker released the first integrations with AI in the product through something called AI custom fields, which is basically allows all of the data, whether that is chat transcripts that come in, whether that's text conversations that can happen using automation or using kind of manual two-way text. Those are all tools inside Intaker. And more recently, even information from call transcripts, because Intaker, in addition to the chat, can perform what's called a live transfer, move chats to phone calls, and then all of that information can now be recorded, captured, and any information on any of those sources can be analyzed and with either extractive AI, meaning knows what to look for and kind of pulls out the right formatted information, whether that's dates, whether that's specific information, whether that's keywords, or some of the other more high-level capabilities of generative AI, like making decisions. That is, when you're telling AI kind of what's a qualified lead, what's not a qualified lead, or other things that might require, higher level thinking than just like extracting data, you can set up the AI custom fields inside Intaker to not just parse that information, but make a lot faster decisions about who are the best opportunities, And where that's going is now connecting that to the rest of the automation engine that we built. So I'll give you 3 quick examples. Number 1 is moving those live transfers that I mentioned. We want to focus on moving a conversation to a phone call as fast as possible when the lead is qualified. Kind of like what we were talking about before. You don't necessarily want to, spend all your time talking to someone if you don't know the facts of their case and if you can help them. So being able to initiate that live transfer when leads match that qualification criteria, which the law firm can tell AI in plain English what's a good lead, what's not a good lead, and it knows enough to kind of make that decision. The second thing is being able to schedule an appointment or, send like a follow-up or, an invitation to people to maybe schedule that consultation, again, when they meet certain minimum criteria. Right now, these are all automations that can happen in Intaker, but still takes someone to kind of decide when to send that, invitation or that follow-up sequence to schedule an appointment. Not all of it is happening automatically yet. But AI is going to change that. And the third thing, maybe one of the most exciting, is being able to send retainers automatically when those leads come in the door for, they meet certain criteria, send them a retainer. For smaller shops that they might not want to do it that way. They might want to have a phone call with every lead, but especially if you're running a higher volume practice, or even something like, whether that's traffic tickets, whether that's Social Security, disability, any of those practice areas where you kind of have a clearer understanding, or even mass tort, right? You want to get a retainer to someone right away. AI can help you do that, and kind of that's where we're going in the next few months. And there are even more amazing AI tools that Intaker is cooking that you'll hear about a little bit later this year. But that is kind of a look ahead to the future. And one other thing, because there are so many different AI tools available right now. A lot of them are focused on content. A lot of them are focused on different content generation, marketing functions, that sort of thing. There's not a lot of players who are really using AI to do the heavy lifting in terms of making fast decisions, but good quality decisions, and then being able to turn that into results for your business. So that's kind of where we're going, and that's how we're looking to use AI for the rest of 2024. And eventually we'll have like AI, closers that can just take your clients all the way through. And we're a little ways away from that. But as you might have seen with kind of the recent, even like video generative AI, text to video that just came out this week, these things are moving so fast that if you don't think we're going to be in a spot a year from now where you're talking to a robot on the phone and you think it's a person, just wait.
Yeah, I feel the same way with you. I always tell the team here at Forward Push, it's like, we're using these tools this week. We should just get on a 14-day trial for everything, because in 14 days there's going to be something else that replaces this that's 10 times better, and then in another 2 weeks there'll be something else that replaces both of those that will be 100 times better. But you are so right, the text to video is unbelievable, and we are just looking at the baby version of it. We'll see December 2024 at the end of this year what that video looks like and how many large scale movies it's putting out. Right now people are just talking about these 15-second clips for shorts. I know in our lifetime we'll actually probably see it produce these Spielberg type movies, just by someone typing in prompts.
Pretty wild. But yeah,
Yeah.
it could be scary, but it's also an opportunity, right? And I guess it's up to, everyone listening and watching, where you want to be when the world is moving in this new direction. If you're going to stay, safe and comfortable in an environment that and kind of wait for the world to kind of move on. But that safe and comfortable environment isn't even going to be here in a couple of years. And so it's probably better to take the uncomfortable action now, start using these tools. But it doesn't have to be a big hurdle, right? I mean, one of the things that Intaker started with, one of the ethos is, yes, adding empathy, right? Just making the engagement more human, even though it's automated, but at the same time making it a lot easier for the staff at these law firms to use these tools without interrupting their workflow, without needing to like learn a bunch of new things. And that's kind of how it's moving forward in the same direction with AI. Is, how can these tools kind of work in the background to support you, support your team, without you needing to really get, too involved in the nitty-gritty details. Can you just make those decisions to, find the right technology partners to help you get to the next level without sacrificing a ton of your own time and energy to learn all the inner workings of these tools? You can just focus on what you love to do, and what you do best. And we're here to kind of support anyone who wants to learn more on the technology side to get better results.
Perfect. It sounds like you and I agree that it's AI isn't going to replace lawyers. It's lawyers that use AI that are going to replace lawyers that don't.
That's right.